Tell me, what exactly did you see 12 years ago on that rainy night in the abandoned warehouse at the Red Hook Pier? A man's voice, like a blade tempered with ice, sounded right next to my ear. I was pinned against a cold wall by an immense force, my wrist aching from the grip of fingers like an iron clamp. The scent of expensive woodsy cologne mixed with the salty tang of the sea breeze, forming a dangerous and suffocating net that trapped me completely. I snapped my head up and met a pair of bottomless, dark eyes. There was no warmth in them, only the focused and ruthless intensity of a predator locking onto its prey. It was him, Leo Romano, a name that existed only on the covers of financial magazines and in urban legends. He was more handsome than the legends claimed, and far more terrifying. In his other hand, he held a velvet box. It was half open, revealing a familiar silver glint. It was my star lily pendant, which had been missing for 12 years. My mind went blank. How could he know? This secret I thought had long since rotted in the deepest corner of my memory. How did he dig it up? I don't know what you're talking about. My voice trembled with fear. He let out a cold laugh, as if he had just heard the funniest lie of the century. He released one hand, took out his phone, and on the screen was a photo of me at the auction house, captured with precision, even though I was in an inconspicuous corner. Just an hour ago, his voice dropped lower, filled with a deadly pressure. When you saw this pendant, your heart rate spiked from 72 beats per minute to 131. Did you really think you hit it well? My life had been on a normal track. I am Amelia Reed, a manuscript restorer absorbed in old documents, currently accompanying my best friend, who was determined to marry into wealth as she experienced the upper-class life she described as tediously dull. Until that pendant appeared, the next item up for auction is a Victorian-era silver pendant engraved with a star lily design. The starting bid is $50,000. I couldn't hear a word the auctioneer said after that. My world was reduced to that silver star lily under the spotlight. It was like a key, instantly unlocking the psychological fortress I had spent 12 years building. It wasn't just a pendant, it was times my times pendant, the keepsake I had buried forever at the age of 10, along with the bloody secret. 55,000, 60,000. The price climbed, and my palms were slick with cold sweat. How could I possibly afford it? Just as I was about to watch it disappear from my life once more, that icy voice echoed through the hall. $500,000. The entire room fell silent. Everyone, including me, turned to look at the corner. Leo Romano sat in the shadows like a king, indifferent to the shock of the crowd. My friend gasped beside me. Oh my God, it's Leo Romano. Is he insane? Spending $500,000 on a pendant that's worth $100,000 at most? At that moment, a terrible thought entered my mind. This was no coincidence. He wasn't after the pendant. He was after the person behind it, me. Leo Romano gripped my chin, forcing me to look at him. I'll ask again. What did you see? His patience was clearly wearing thin. Don't make me use my own methods to help you remember. Trust me, you won't like the process. He wasn't joking. I saw the reflection of carnage and death in his eyes. I saw someone die. I finally broke every word I uttered, tasting of blood. A flicker of something undetectable crossed his eyes, but his tone remained cold. Who died? Who killed them? I couldn't say it. The promise I made to that dying girl was like a curse that had sealed my lips for 12 years. It seems you still need a little help. He let me go and gestured to the bodyguard behind him. Miss Reed, I'm afraid you won't be going home by yourself, he stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. The moment I bought this pendant, you were exposed. Now, everyone in New York who wants to know its secret is looking for you. And I am the only one who can keep you alive until tomorrow. Just like that, I was half forced into a black Bentley. The look of terror in my friend's eyes was seared into my mind. In just 1 hour, My life had completely spiraled out of control. The car drove to the heights of Manhattan, stopping before a penthouse apartment that overlooked Central Park like a fortress in the sky. "From now on, you live here," Leo said as he led me into the apartment. The extreme luxury and coldness of the place were suffocating. "You are not to leave or contact anyone without my permission." He treated me like a piece of property, not a person. "What gives you the right to imprison me?" I finally exploded. The fear I had suppressed for 12 years, combined with the shock of the night, made me lose my reason. "Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're rich and powerful?" He turned and advanced on me until I was trapped between the floor-to-ceiling window and him. Outside were the glittering city lights. Inside were his cold eyes. "Imprison you?" He looked down at me, a scornful smile playing on his lips. "Miss Reed, you're mistaken. I'm not imprisoning you. I'm saving your life, the life of a witness who could be silenced at any moment." He paused, his voice dropping even lower, filled with deadly pressure. "Now, tell me everything you saw 12 years ago. If you dare to hide a single detail, I have plenty of ways to make you remember." Under his piercing gaze, I completely broke down. I poured out the truth of that rainy night and the nightmare I had harbored for 12 years. After I finished, he was silent for a long time, a storm raging in his eyes, powerful enough to destroy everything. Finally, he knelt, his gaze a complex mixture of pain, anger, and a hint of pity. "My uncle Marco, he told me Luna was killed by our rivals, the mob. For that, we've been at war with them for 12 years, he said, his voice hoarse. It was a staggering deception that had lasted for 12 years, and I was the only key. In the days that followed, I was like a canary in a gilded cage. A seemingly kind housekeeper named Sophia was assigned to look after me, attending to my every need as if I were a distinguished guest. Leo Romano was extremely busy, leaving early and returning late. He gave me a new phone, but it was empty, except for his number. He told me he had already arranged for my indefinite leave from the museum. To keep from going mad, I began to study the precious manuscripts in his library. One day, I found a locked, leather-bound diary with a star lily embossed on the cover. It was Luna's diary. Using a hairpin and the delicate skill I had honed as a restorer, I picked the small brass lock. The diary was filled with a young girl's secrets, and her growing fear of her uncle, Marco. As I was engrossed in the diary, Sophia came in with a glass of wine. "Miss Amelia, you must be tired from reading. Have something to drink," she said with a smile. "Thank you, Sophia," I said, closing the diary. When she saw the cover, her eyes flickered. "Oh, Luna's diary," she said nonchalantly. "Poor child, Miss Amelia. Did you know Miss Luna?" A chill went down my spine. "No, I just thought the book was beautiful." "Yes," Sophia sighed, tidying my desk. "Miss Luna was a sweet girl, but too naive. She told her Uncle Frank everything. You know, that man was no good, always taking her to unsavory places. The master was very angry about it. Frank was no good? That was the complete opposite of what I had read in the diary. That night, not long after drinking the wine, I felt dizzy and weak. I knew something was wrong. I stumbled to the door, only to find it locked from the outside. I banged on the door, screaming for help, but soon lost consciousness. I don't know how much time passed, but I was awakened by an icy touch. I was on the floor, and Leo was kneeling beside me, wiping my forehead with a damp cloth. His face was terrifyingly grim. "You're awake," he said, a trace of relief in his voice when he saw my eyes open. "What happened, Sophia? She drugged you." Leo's voice was like ice. "If I had come back 30 minutes later, her people would have taken you." I broke out in a cold sweat. I thought the danger was outside, never imagining it was lurking within this supposedly safe cage. Why would she do that? She works for Marco. Leo stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. "She's worked for our family for 20 years, one of my father's most trusted people, and she was Marco's deepest planted spy." His silhouette, against the backdrop of the vast glittering city, seemed incredibly lonely. For the first time, I felt a twinge of sympathy for him. This man lived in a world filled with betrayal and conspiracy. After that night, the security in the penthouse was raised to the highest level. Leo no longer left me alone, even moving his desk into the library to face mine. We were constantly in each other's line of sight. The atmosphere was awkward, but subtle changes began to occur between us. One day, I was restoring a damaged medieval manuscript, struggling with a specific mineral pigment. After finishing his work, he came over and watched me quietly. This particular blue, it looks like it was ground from lapis lazuli, imported from ancient Persia, he said suddenly. I looked at him in surprise. My mother was an art historian, he explained coolly. I picked up a few things. I had never imagined a man like him would have such a cultured side. With his help, I mixed a color that was almost identical to the original. That afternoon, we didn't talk about conspiracies or danger. We were like two scholars discussing the fine details of manuscript restoration. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft, golden glow on his profile. I found myself staring. Amelia, he said my name for the first time. The special cargo and the scorpion that Luna mentioned in her diary. Do you have any thoughts? I shook my head, but just then, a memory from my work surfaced. Some ancient parchments had a second layer of text, written beneath the main text, using special plant juices, which would only become visible under specific light or chemical agents. Maybe there's another secret in the diary. I told him my theory. A light flashed in his eyes. We acted immediately. He had professional UV lamps and chemical reagents delivered. Under my careful hand, faint text began to emerge on some of the pages. It was a hidden message written by Luna in lemon juice. Asterisk Uncle Marco is talking to the Scorpion's men about the cargo ship. They mentioned Dad's Route 7. Uncle Frank said he has to get me out of here. I'm so scared. I hid a copy of the shipping map in. Asterisk. The rest of the text was illegible due to age. Route 7. Leo's face turned ashen. That's my family's most secret gold transport route. Marco sold it to a Colombian drug cartel. Just then, a deafening alarm blared through the penthouse. The security system has been breached. Leo's expression changed. He pulled me behind him and drew his gun. His right-hand man, Vincent, burst in. Leo, it's Marco's men. They've cut the power grid and are coming in from the balcony and the ventilation ducts. The sounds of a fierce fight erupted outside. A dark figure suddenly lunged from behind the curtains, pouncing at Leo. He reacted instantly, dodging aside, but his arm was slashed as he protected me. As the assassin lunged again, I acted on instinct, grabbing a beaker of reacting chemicals from the desk and throwing it in the attacker's face. R! The assassin screamed, clutching his eyes as he fell. The chaos was quickly brought under control. Leo's arm was bleeding, but he paid it no mind. He just stared at me, his eyes filled with shock and a hint of fear. You. I just... My legs were like jelly, and the beaker slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. He said nothing more, just sighed and gently pulled me into an embrace with his uninjured arm. I'm here. Don't be afraid, he whispered in my ear. That night, he didn't let me go back to the guest room. He disinfected and bandaged his own wound, while I sat beside him like a child who had done something wrong. Why did you take that risk? He asked, a hint of reprimand in his voice. I couldn't just stand by and watch you get hurt. I mumbled. His movements paused. He looked up, his dark eyes incredibly deep in the light. Amelia, I swore to make the people who killed Luna pay, but now I have one more person to protect. I won't let anything happen to you. Absolutely not. His gaze was too intense, the distance between us too small. I could smell his dangerous, captivating scent, mixed with the faint smell of blood and disinfectant. He slowly leaned in. I didn't pull away. A gentle kiss landed on my forehead. Sleep, he said. Tomorrow, everything changes. The next day, Leo looked at me with an unprecedented seriousness in his eyes. Marco has gotten desperate. We have to strike first, he said. Amelia, I need your help. He had devised an incredibly bold plan to use me as bait. He knows you're the only witness. He'll stop at nothing to eliminate you. I'll leak information that I'm secretly sending you back to Canada. The route will be accidentally leaked to him. That's too dangerous. I protested. The most dangerous place is the safest place. His gaze was unyielding. I will set a trap for him. This is the best chance to take him and the scorpion down in one fell swoop. He also told me he had contacted Frank, who was living in seclusion in Switzerland. Frank would bring direct evidence of Marco's treason and meet us at a designated location. The plan was set for a stormy night 3 days later. As planned, I got into a car headed for the airport. As we crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, several black SUVs surrounded us, forcing us to a stop. An intense gunfight broke out. I huddled in the car, terrified. Vincent protected me as we fought and retreated, pushed to the edge of the bridge. Just then, Marco appeared, accompanied by the man with the scorpion tattoo on his neck. "Where's Leo? Tell him to get out here," Marco yelled frantically. "Uncle, are you looking for me?" Leo's voice came from behind Marco. Several helicopters hovered in the air, their searchlights illuminating the bridge like daylight. Leo and his men had flanked them from the other end of the bridge, creating a counter-encirclement. Marco's face turned pale. He knew he had been trapped. "Get her. Use her as a hostage," he screamed, pointing at me. The man with the scorpion tattoo lunged at me. At that critical moment, a gunshot rang out, and he fell. The shot came from Frank, who had just arrived. Marco went completely insane. He grabbed one of his own men as a shield and retreated towards the bridge railing. "Leo, you think you've won?" He glared venomously. "Let me tell you a secret. You think your father was some kind of saint? For his so-called family honor, he was prepared to give up Route 7 and surrender to our enemies. He was going to destroy the empire our family built over generations. I killed him to save our legacy. I am the true hero of the Romano family." The stunning revelation shocked everyone. "And for that, you killed your own brother and your 10-year-old niece?" Leo's voice was colder than the grave. "The ends justify the means," Marco roared. Then he turned to me with a strange smile. "You think it's over just because I'm dead? You'll never find what the scorpion really wants." Ha 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 ha. With that, he vaulted over the railing and jumped into the turbulent East River. But to everyone's horror, a speedboat was waiting below. It picked him up and disappeared into the night. He had escaped. The next day, Marco's body was found, washed ashore. A storm that had raged for 12 years had finally subsided. But my heart could not find peace. Marco's words were like a thorn between Leo and me. I moved out of his penthouse and opened a small manuscript restoration studio in Greenwich Village, with a small bookstore in the front. Just as Luna had once dreamed, I needed time, and so did he. We needed to figure out how two people bound by a bloody past could move toward the future. We were apart for a month. He didn't contact me, but I knew the man reading the financial newspaper in the coffee shop across the street every day was the one he had sent to protect me. 1 month later, a special customer came into my shop. It was Leo. He had shed his suit for simple jeans and a casual shirt. In his hands, he held a small pot of star lilies. "It's beautiful here," he said. "Thank you." An awkward silence filled the space between us. Finally, he spoke first. "Amelia, do my uncle's words still bother you?" I nodded. My father did make wrong decisions. He admitted frankly, his honesty disarming me. And my family is far from innocent. I can't change where I come from. And I can't escape who I am. This is my world complex, gray, and sometimes even ugly. He walked over to me and placed the flower pot on my workbench. But he looked into my eyes, his voice sincere. "I want to have a clean place in my world. A place where I can let down all my guards and quietly watch you restore ancient texts. Amelia, are you willing to be the only light in my world?" I looked at him, at the weariness, sincerity, and cautious hope in his eyes. This man, who commanded storms outside, was now showing me his most vulnerable side. Tears I could no longer hold back streamed down my face. I smiled and nodded vigorously. He pulled me into a tight embrace, as if to merge me into his very bones. He placed the star lily pendant back around my neck. "This was from Luna to you," he whispered. "And it's the unbreakable bond of fate between us." Our love story began with a 12-year-old murder mystery, built upon the ruins of danger and lies. But it was more real and stronger than any ancient text I had ever restored. We both knew the road ahead would not be smooth. His world would always be full of challenges. But I was no longer afraid, because I knew that as long as we were together, we could face any storm. This is a story about trauma, redemption, and love. Sometimes fate brings us together in the cruelest ways, but even in the deepest darkness, there is always a light that can guide us to find each other and walk towards the dawn. Thank you for listening. May everyone in front of the screen, no matter your circumstances, have the courage to pursue love and the strength to protect your happiness. May the people you meet be kind, and may the path you walk be smooth.